absolutely sorry. I apologize for the slightly late delay that we have in getting started with the live show. I do want to thank our moderators. Our moderators are amazing, patient people. Thank you guys for stepping up to the plate and jumping in. Brad, you're amazing. Dean, you're amazing. I think we'll see Michael a little bit later on. You guys are awesome. Thank you for your kindness and your care. All of you guys, speaking of awesome, all of you guys are awesome. The kind of support that you continue to show is great. As you can see, I am with my dear brother, Major David Tal from the Israeli Defense Force, who is now in Israel. This is going to be, David, this is going to be an IDF day for me.
Ooh,
you know that, right? Because
yeah.
I have officials from the state of Israel coming into my studio in about an hour and a half, and we're going to do an interview. These are guys who are decorated veterans as you, except they got wounded in the recent scrabbles in Gaza. And by saying scrabbles, I'm being facetious and sarcastic in a way.
Yeah, okay. But
so it's going to be interesting. We got a lot going on.
Well, I'll have to add on that I had an IDF day the day before yesterday. And I
saw the pictures. Those are amazing.
I did manage to climb on the tank. I have to say, very slowly and very carefully. But
I was going to ask you, did it feel the same when you jumped on it? Did it feel like an old glove?
No. I mean, I remember I'm standing next to the tank and I say, I don't remember you being so high. I mean, really, I got to climb up on this. And I did the sit down on the cowling and slide carefully down when I got off instead of jumping off the side of the tank like I used to. So, yes.
Goodness gracious. Well, that's hilarious. By the way, Stuart Callum, thank you, brother. Glad to see that you're watching live for the first time. God bless you. He is our friend from South Australia. It's awesome. Super awesome. Okay. So did you get in? Did you get in the tank?
Oh yeah. No. I got in. I sat in the commander's compartment. I sat in the gunner's compartment. And by the way, it is a new tank. It's not my old tank. The only place I can get in the tanks that I really know well are in the museum today. But basically, it's amazing the technology that they have on. I mean, I was sitting in the tank and I see the screen. And you know, well, I can't talk about it, but okay. But what I'm trying to say is they have upgraded a lot of cool stuff inside that tank. But I'll tell you one of the most amazing things. I got to talk to the colonel that commands the 8th Armored Brigade. And we actually stood on the border with
the famous 8th Armored Brigade.
The 8th Armored.
No kidding.
The old man brigade.
That must have been awesome for you.
It was kind of awesome.
Tell people why they're famous. You have to talk about this. This is a very special group of guys.
Well, no, the first thing about him is that the brigade was created by Yitzhak Sadeh, who is the father of our Israeli armored warfare.
That's right.
He was called the Old Man, and it literally is called the Old Man Brigade. So I'll be releasing a YouTube video of me and him talking on the border with Lebanon sometime soon. But basically, it was, James, besides all the rest, first of all, he's a kid. I mean, colonels in the Army are kids now. I mean, you know, wow. It's like, no, it's the other way around. I'm getting old. So, you know, the colonels in the Army haven't changed their age. I think he's about 45 years old. But, you know, I mean, the guy is commanding, you know, like, I think he said he's got 600 tanks under his belt. I mean, you know, like huge amounts of firepower. But to hear what's really going on, he was literally in Lebanon fighting the Hezbollah in Lebanon during the last war. And to stand there and said, see that house? We blew that up here. See that house? That has a tunnel underneath. We found 300 pounds of this. And see that house? You know, really on that level, it was really, really fascinating. And
do you know who else is very familiar with that brigade?
Who else?
The Sinai is.
Oh yeah. No.
I'm sorry, I had to say it.
So it was really, really cool. I got to meet the families though, James, more than anything. One of the things we've talked about Gihon Springs in the past, But one of the things that we do is we support the families. So I got to meet some of the wives, some of the kids, and the guys themselves. And I got to sit in the tank. The smell, James, the smell. I love the smell of diesel in the morning. I mean, just.
Yeah.
But so that was my experience. I'm going to be bringing out some of this on the Balagan Connection in the next couple of days. But just the border with Lebanon, I mean, we can go on that a little bit. They've been put underground, totally healed. The border next to Israel, I mean, the first 5-6 kilometers on the Lebanese side, all the villages are empty. Nobody there. Nobody lives there anymore. Nobody is there anymore. The only people moving around, the only people I saw moving around on the other side were Unifil. And maybe we need to talk about that because they're trying to get into Gaza now. And that's a whole different story in itself. United
That's
Nations.
interesting. Yeah. The United Nations is beyond Balagan. They're dirty. I'm telling you, man, that the United Nations is evil. They are, in my opinion, the largest terrorist organization in the world. Forgive me for saying that, but give me a break. UNRWA and all the other nonsense they've been doing, they're a bunch of God haters. No, I'm sorry.
He was telling me, he says, look, you see that position? That's the United Nations base. He says, take 2 fingers to the right. You see that house? We found a massive Hamas infrastructure underneath that house. I said, wait a minute. That's not a mile away. That's across the street from the United Nations. He says, yes. The Hezbollah was using the United Nations and making their positions next to the United Nations because they knew that Israel wouldn't attack the United Nations.
It's insane. It makes zero sense.
And James, I saw it with my eyes. And no, don't get me wrong. I know. He said we had a couple of fist fights with them. They tried to stop. Well, I remember that when I was a little baby sergeant and I went in First Lebanese War, and I still remember a United Nations officer from Fiji. And he closed, they would come in, he closed, that little gateway that you have, that you raise it and says, and he stands in front of my tank and he says, you will not pass. And I said to the driver, just go slow.
Yeah.
and we broke down the little pole. I still remember the pole went underneath the tank treads, and he moved away very quickly, and the whole company moved through. So that's the United Nations. But no, they're being used. They're being used, and France is using them in a bad way.
I mean, I think it's more than them being used as a pawn. I think the United Nations is a nefarious body, and I'm sorry to say that they're suspect at best. And the kind of things that they continue to do are just dark and evil. And I really don't care what anybody says regarding that. Their actions speak way louder than words. And the things that they do continue to be just absolutely obscene. And they're contributing to many of the problems that they say they're trying to solve.
Well, I use the United Nations as a way to explain that the majority is usually not right. And the United Nations,
100%.
Think about it. The United Nations is like a democracy of nations. And when you have a democracy of nations, meaning the majority gets to decide, me and you both know that if you open your Bible for 5 minutes, you know that the majority doesn't decide the right thing. So 100%. If you have an organization that is based on decisions of majorities, by definition, you're going to find many times that they're on the wrong side of the moral compass.
100%.
And we're in a serious problem because how many Muslim nations are there in the world? I think something like 93 altogether.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I don't remember what the updated count was.
How many Jewish nations?
Say that again.
How many Jewish nations in the world?
Yeah, come on. We all know the answer
democracy.
To that one.
If you're a democracy, okay, the Muslims are going to make anything, and that's what makes the absurdity of everything here. So yeah,
no, it's 100% right. It's 100% right. By the way, David, I'm going to do this. I'm going to let people know on Instagram that we're live here because I'm going to tell you this right now. We normally get almost 2,000 simultaneous viewers when we do live shows like this, and we're being throttled right now. So I want you guys to go out to tell people that we are online. I'm going to let them know on Instagram because it's kind of important. I'm going to do that right now. But take a moment while I do this, you guys, to go text this link to this show. Let's get these numbers up because what we're going to talk about today is super, super important. Israel is in a crisis, and I'm going to call it the calm before the storm. And there's a lot going on. By the way, did you saw what went on with the judge advocate or the advocate general of Israel? Oh my goodness. We're going to have to talk about that.
They haven't found the phone yet.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that because that is, and then how in the world do the IDF soldiers feel about some of that nonsense? I mean, goodness gracious. Let me do this really quickly. Hey, everybody. We're live. There's a lot going on right now in the Middle East. I'm going to be live with David Tall. He is live in Israel. By the way, did you notice I voted? And if you're in the state of California, vote no on Prop 50. Vote no. Anyway, we're live right here. Click right here. Yeah. I don't. Do we start with that discussion?
Do you want to start with that one?
I don't know. What do you think?
I'm okay. I mean, Israel's political situation is really in a turmoil because of this. Our enemies believe that will allow them somehow to play the game. And they are playing a game with us right now. But we've been complaining about the judge. What do you call it? The judge advocate general?
Technically, it would be like the judge advocate general, the advocate general, very similar to speaking of. Yeah. And by the way, did you also see what the attorney general tried to do?
Yep.
She's such a devil.
Okay, so
I'm telling you, she's the devil. So sorry, I have to say I do not like her.
I know. Wait a minute. Let me say something again. I hope everybody's listening to me here, James, because me and you have not always seen eye to eye on this, and I'm going to agree that I was mistaken. It's a lot worse than I think.
Praise you, Jesus. Thank you. You know what? I knew it would be a matter of time before you came on my side. She's terrible, bro. I'm sorry. I have to say it.
Yes.
She's so dang corrupt. It's almost like she hates her own people.
There is something similar to what we're seeing in some of the United States. Some of the we have our what do we call these? Anti-backstabbing. We are so virtuous that we're going to decide how you do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well call her a Palestinian like Chuck Schumer.
Okay, what do we call the Ilhan Omars and the what do we call them in the United States?
I'll tell you what we call Ilhan Omar. We call Ilhan Omar a treasonist. We call her a traitor.
Okay, so
a literal devil.
I'm putting a line. I can't call the judge advocate of Israel a treasonist. I think I'll tell you what. I'll tell you where it came from. Okay, and here's maybe. Do we need to explain what happened?
Yeah, but I want to say this for the record. They did that, bro. There wasn't a leak. That thing was a complete fabrication. You know it and I know it. There's at least 3 or 4 pieces of footage spliced together. At the bare minimum, at least 2. But anyway, yeah, go ahead. Let everybody know. Because if I do it, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to scream loud into this microphone if I tell everybody what happened. You tell everybody.
So, by the way, you guys had the same problem. You guys. We had.
Oh, yeah, of course we did.
I mean,
we did.
There were times when some of the jails in Iraq, they were being blamed of doing all kinds of stuff and
in Guantanamo,
things like that. So
yep.
these are the fairies who believe that it's their job to be very, very nice and to be very, very clear to the enemy. So prisoners from the 7th of October, literally the guys that pulled off the massacre of the 7th of October, were in a facility in Sde Teman, and the prisoners are checked to make sure that they're not hiding certain things in certain part of their body. Okay. And as a result of one of these checks, and this is normal, anybody who's been in any kind of prison service knows exactly what I'm talking about. But the prisoner didn't like the check and kind of screamed Bloody Mary. And the judge advocate saw a piece of one of the recordings and decided it was her job to pull the soldiers over the coals because she thought that it looked like they did something sexual to this terrible, terrible terrorist. Let's make this clear, which would have been wrong. Long story short, when she couldn't prove it legally, they spliced a couple of videos together that made it look more apparent, and then she allowed the videos, the spliced, doctored videos, to be leaked to the press, even though it was supposed to be a closed investigation. And at this point, I'm going to say this: one, it was made up. Two, she should have trusted the soldiers more. Three, even if anybody did something like that, it should have been taken care of inside the system and quietly. And four, the publishing of those videos created a PR terrorist attack for Israel, because what it did is it put Israel and the Hamas terrorists on the same moral balance and equivalency. That was more than anything else. Now, really,
sorry, go ahead.
No, not really. I said it was all fabricated, and it came out that she had actually asked for one of her team to leak the video, and now she's being called. When she was called out on it, the what do you call the legal advisor, the highest attorney? What do you call the highest attorney in the
attorney general?
The attorney general tried to cover up for her.
Of course.
Not directly.
And do you know how she tried to cover up? Because that clown basically said, so basically what happened was they declared that the way that she should be investigated for the evil that she did was to basically have her own deputy investigate her. That's exactly what they said.
They tried to close it inside the system.
So it's clearly a conflict of interest. Her own deputy is not going to do that. So then what ends up happening is now we know that the people that are on the right side of the coalition for Bibi, they've been trying to completely destroy any opportunity that this attorney general has to continue to be the corrupt individual that she is. So what she basically says is she says, no, I don't see that as a conflict of interest. I'll get involved and I'll adjudicate the whole thing. Well, of course you're going to get involved and adjudicate the whole thing. She's doing your dirty work.
But I want to go back to the main three issues that Israel is reeling with right now. Issue number one, the soldiers who were disgraced by her. A lot of
100%.
them. I know. We were talking yesterday the day before yesterday when I was up, talking. So the 8th Brigade is all reservists. So they're regular guys. The guys that were accused of this were regular reservists, and they're saying she literally fired on her own men. And I know some of them got divorced. Some of them slipped into depression. I mean, they're being blamed for sexually abusing prisoners. I mean, it's horrible. And that's number one. Two, the PR. I mean, the world blamed us. The world said, oh, Israelis and Hamas are the same. They're no different. And the third was, I guess more than anything, that you can't trust the system. And that breakdown of trust in the system is something that Israel's going to have to deal with on a lot of different levels.
And that's the issue. Look, that's the point. They're the ones destroying it. I mean, what else do you say about that kind of nonsense?
Well, I want to add something else a lot of people don't know, okay? The West Bank, we talk about Judea and Samaria as the West Bank. The West Bank is under Israeli military legal system, meaning she is the legal system for all the Arabs who live in the West Bank too. Do you understand that what happens here is actually degrading or how do you say, disintegrating her authority, her legal authority over the Arabs? I mean, again, if somebody steals a car in the areas of the West Bank that are under Israeli control, remember there's A, B, and C areas, okay? The A areas are under Palestinian control completely. The B areas and the C areas are under Israeli control. So if a Muslim steals a car from another Muslim in the B area, she's the one that is responsible. She and her team of, what do you call them? Attorneys are responsible for upholding the law inside the West Bank. And now they're saying, I mean, again, it's a political problem already, but now it's even a worse political problem. So again, all of this is coming together, and again, it's much worse than I thought or even wanted to believe. Israel is reeling with this.
Well, I mean, look, this is, again, this becomes a much more consequential issue on a lot of levels. And I think that the problem here is that now you not only have a problem where you're facing issues on the outside and the perception of everything that's going on with Israel, now we're facing a war on the inside because of these self-righteous pieces of garbage.
Well, I'm going to remind us all, though, James. Again, I can see.
I'm mad. Sorry, I'm a little mad.
We, the Jews, have been doing this for years. In fact, I'm going to say even more. We, the Jews have been doing this ever since the book of Exodus. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
Totally. So we call it the War of the Jews. Josephus wrote the book called The War of the Jews. And yes, I saw a video of the destruction of the temple in 71 AD, and there was a lot of infighting back then also when the temple was destroyed. So what can I say, James? It's a balagan.
I mean, look, I'm sorry, but I have a much bigger problem with the method that's even being taken. Listen, if you're going to leak something, okay, fine. You genuinely believe something is wrong. Okay, you're going to leak it. You're going to tell everybody about it. You're the whistleblower. You're self-righteous. You think all is good. Let me just simply say this, and I argue this, by the way, with police officers. And you know this because you spent most of your life in a tank. So you get this, right? You know exactly what this is like, okay? And you've seen the other side of it. You've been in the diplomatic corps. You've seen every bit of it, okay? No one is ever going to know what it's like unless they get their rears in a police car. You know, people used to come up to me all the time and they would say, man, those cops, they're a bunch of pigs. You know what? How about I go stick you in South LA or South Central LA in the middle of the Imperial Courts projects with a full-blown police uniform on. Let's just see how good you feel about the situation in the midst of all of that. I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm not trying to be difficult. But the reality of it is these people don't understand how bad of a neighborhood you guys are in. They don't get it.
No, and also they don't understand what it's like to be on the ground and making decisions. I mean, let me put you in a tank where you are looking through a scope in the middle of the night. And you have to decide if you're going to pull the trigger or not to pull the trigger, and you've got these peaceniks, okay, sitting there.
100%.
Okay, and again, it is, and maybe this is a way to kind of how do you say, segue into something a little bit deeper, because we're seeing this all over the place. This virtue signaling, where people actually start waving flags because they want to feel good about themselves. The Greta Thunbergs of the world. I mean, her name is going to go down for ages as a symbol of a stupid virtue signaler. And
100%.
They do it not because of the whales that they want to save or the climate that they want to change or the Palestinians they want to save. They do it because they want to feel good about themselves. And they believe that doing this, and the bigger the claim, the bigger the genocide that they say that they're fighting against, or the bigger the bad thing that they're fighting against, the better they feel about themselves, even though they have nothing to do with, not the solution, and they have no idea what's going on. She was a virtue signaler. And again, she was in the system, but she thought it was her job to make sure that the soldiers don't get carried away. And she did it in the most terrible way possible.
I mean, and that's, and look, the problem is now, how do you pick up from those pieces, bro? You tell me. How in the world do you pick up from those pieces?
So the news had two guys that were part of those who were accused. By the way, they're still on trial. The men that were accused of this are still on trial. Their lives have been turned upside down. Their wives are leaving them. One of them says, "Hey, I've started, taking antidepressants and getting so." But they're on trial for doing terrible things, and it turns out that she just wanted to make sure that she sends out the message that this is not something that should be done. By the way, and she's going to go to jail for it, but the damage is done. Now, here's a question, though. I want to go a little bit further. She disappeared for 4 hours yesterday. Nobody could find her. Everybody,
yeah, and then everybody thought that she had we can't use that term, but she took her own life. Everybody thought she took her own life for a little while. Matter of fact, there was a lot of rumors. That's how I actually caught on to this whole situation. Was I saw the news reports that came out talking about it. Then they had to all withdraw themselves.
Now they're talking about the fact that wasn't the issue. The issue was she threw her phone into the sea. Now there's squads of divers checking the sea line to find the phone, because
goodness,
there might be more stuff on that phone that we don't know yet.
What in the world, David?
Well, again, James, I mean, I'm watching what's going on, by the way, in the MAGA movement, by the way, and we see a lot of virtue signaling over there. It's people who wave flags that they believe that that it is going to be their role to wave the flag, and I mean, just terrible. I want to finish the Lebanon thing before we go too far.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to that. I'm sorry.
Let me just because we're on the verge of something in Lebanon too, and I saw it happening the day before yesterday. The Hezbollah is about to be disarmed, but they're fighting against it. And the Lebanese government isn't strong enough to make them do it.
Huh.
But it looks like the American administration is putting pressure on them to find some way to disarm themselves. And what I'm worried about this is that the only way that it can be done is, again, if Israel puts pressure on the Hezbollah. We blew up a couple of
military incursion. You're right, 100%.
So here's the problem. America doesn't want Israel to do it. And here's what I'm worried about. And this is going to segue us into Gaza too, because America is looking for, guess who? Turkish.
Oh, this is a whole other ball of wax that we have to talk about. Don't get me started on this, because listen, we not only have a problem with that element, and I would not be surprised if that was the case, because think about how perfect that's going to end up being, not only for the president, but how perfect that's going to end up being for Aoun, and how perfect that's going to end up being for Erdogan. Think about this for just a second, right? Who else are they playing games with right now? Who is the president flirting with? Who is going to be the first so-called Syrian president to ever be in the White House in 3 weeks? Okay? They're calling him El Shara, but we all know his name is Mohammed El Julani. And that terrorist, who at one point had a $10 million bounty on his head put on by our own government, is going to be sitting in the Oval Office, and he's going to be doing it at the bequest of Mohammed bin Salman, but more importantly, he's going to be doing it at the bequest of the president of Turkey, who is, by the way, Islamic Brotherhood in Asia Minor.
By the way,
so he's going to do this, and let's not talk about what he's done already in the north with the Kurds in Syria, and some of the control that he's beginning to have effect in when it comes to the northern portion of Iraq. He is setting himself up for the new caliphate.
Well, for two things I want to connect. There's a picture that kind of surfaced a little while ago of El Julani with the heads of two resistors, okay, in Iraq at the time. I mean, the same El Julani that you've seen, and the same one. Second, I think, though, that the American administration and President Trump has decided to use Turkey as a motivator and a mover in places where they can't motivate and move anywhere else. And they, again, it's the art of the deal. Trump is turned Turkey into his new bestie in the Middle East. And again, this is going to connect on so many things. Um, can I make a small kind of connection when Turkey talks about Israel and occupied territories? Does anybody know the story of Cyprus and why Cyprus is divided into two?
I think most people in this audience might not know because we haven't spent a lot of time talking about it. Which, by the way, can I say this one thing about Cyprus? You do realize that that thing that we're talking about that caused Cyprus to split in two is getting revisited right now. And it has everything to do with the electrical deal that's happening. Let's just call it the energy deal that's happening, while at the same time, Turkey's mess with Libya and that whole crossgate issue that's coming up from the southern Mediterranean to the northern Mediterranean. Sorry, was I being a spoiler alert? I'm opening my big mouth.
No, okay.
But
quick geography. If you look at a map of Israel, literally 100 miles offshore, there's a big island called Cyprus. It's mentioned in the New Testament. Paul was there a couple of times. The reason I know Cyprus very well is because I did security at the Israeli embassy in Cyprus for 2 years. Lived in Nicosia. Now, Cyprus actually is a nice little island. They're Greeks, basically. They speak Greek. They're Greek culture. They eat souvlaki, which is amazing, and amazing food. They're very, very sega. But what was it, 1972, if I remember? Okay, Turkey decided that it wanted a foothold in Cyprus and actually conquer the northern part of Cyprus. So today, the island of Cyprus, which was itself a British mandate before, is now split into two. Half of Cyprus is an independent country, which is Greek by culture, but an independent country. And half of Cyprus is another independent country that is under the jurisdiction of the Turks. So it is called occupied territory. It is occupied Cyprus. I mean, the hypocrisy of making an issue of our occupied territories when they're holding an occupied territory. And here's the thing. Now, the situation, Cyprus sits right smack in the middle of the Eastern Mediterranean Sea, where all of the pipelines are going to pass through, and this huge energy deal that they're talking about. And they're talking about the deal from India to Europe as using Cyprus as one of the ports of entry, because Cyprus is part of the European Union. Meaning if you land in Cyprus, you don't need a passport if you are British. And if you are a Cypriot, you can fly to England without a passport or without a visa. And that's a very interesting dynamic.
That's a dream for the expats over there, bro. Give me a break. Holy smokes.
So here's
Holy smokes.
Cyprus also found huge amounts of natural gas offshore, and that's coming online now. So the natural gas that Israel has and the natural gas that Cyprus has is a direct threat to the Russian natural gas monopoly that they have of supplying gas to the Europeans. And that's in play right now. And the more hold Turkey has, by the way, one of the things that Turkey is investing in more than anything right now is in its Navy.
Oh, yeah, we know that.
I think
and the president is actually seeking to benefit from that, by the way. Kind of an interesting picture on that one. You know the story on the ship making on that one, right?
No.
So this is very interesting because the president is going to or seeking to take advantage of the prominence that Turkey has in developing or building ships. And one of the deals that they're going to start working out in terms of the new deployment of the F-35s that they're going to give back to Turkey is a deal involving some of the ship manufacturing stuff that they want to go to us. So that's going to end up ramping up all of that stuff as well. It's going to be interesting, bro.
Well, one of the things that we haven't mentioned in this context is that Turkey is a member of NATO.
Yeah, second largest military in NATO, by the way.
Yeah, Turkey is. So,
and that in and of itself is scary.
So here's the thing. The Turkey-Qatar axis is now becoming the main, weight in the whole Middle East issue. And it's becoming a counterbalance to the Emirates and Egypt and MBS and the Saudis. So we're now seeing this kind of waggling. And I think President Trump is enjoying playing the sides against themselves, even in the Middle East. That's what he does very well. By the way,
100%.
I see him doing it with the administration right now.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that there are many in the administration right now in the current moment that don't completely see or recognize or understand the overall picture of what's happening. It's kind of a scary place to be in, to be honest with you. I mean, if you actually look at how quickly things can go wrong, especially with the religious fervor that we know Erdogan has, it can become a much more significant problem that we can even imagine. And I can tell you this right now: NATO's not going to have any control over Turkey. Turkey's not going to calm down as a result of that. We're seeing literally the setting up of Ezekiel 38 right in front of us, literally right in front of our faces.
And here's the thing: because they're NATO, America cannot put any kind of military pressure on them.
100%.
And what the Trump administration has done to a certain extent, it is hobbled Israel as far as the military is concerned, because Israel was becoming a military power. We've now been hobbled to a certain extent, but it is also hobbled itself on Turkey and Qatar. Qatar doesn't have to have an army. It's under the protectorate of the United States. Turkey doesn't have to be afraid of anything, because nobody can attack Turkey right now. And we're seeing a new dynamic actually building in the Middle East as we speak. And that is very interesting.
Well, and I think that the other problem that we have to face, and it's like the ugly elephant in the room, right, is what do we do with the growing sentiment of opposition well, let me just say this. What do we do of the growing sentiment that continues to want to create some kind of a compromise with this two-state delusion? For example, did you hear what this clown said? I probably shouldn't be disrespectful. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but like, did you hear what Steve Bannon actually said? And I actually have respected Steve Bannon over the years. Like, this is one of these things that I disagree with. Do you know that he's now proposing a 3-state delusion? And do you know what he wants the third state to be? He wants the third state to be a Christian Jerusalem. I don't even know what a Christian Jerusalem means.
Here's okay. My sense of smell is really, really kind of whacked up on this one. Did you hear what J.D. Vance said about the Church of the Holy Sepulchre?
I did hear that. Yeah, I did. I think there was a context in his representation of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I'm almost certain of that.
I hope so, because it sounded like he believes that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is under some kind of threat when it's under Israeli jurisdiction. And it sounded like that. I don't want to go that way.
I don't think me personally, I interpreted it slightly differently. The way that I interpreted it was, because I don't know if you would know this. I mean, I'm sure you would know this, bro. Like you'd probably know this before I would, and you'd probably understand the dynamic better than me, at least initially in Israel. There has been some massive movements amongst the Palestinian Authority to actually want to destroy that site. Like there's been the Palestinian Authority has been encouraging their people to basically make problems over there. So do you think it's him speaking against Mahmoud Abbas?
Oh no, I mean what he is kind of making kind of a feeling that there's a threat to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and United States interest is in upholding access or security of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And there is a movement inside the MAGA, I don't know if you're hearing it, of we need to protect Christians around the world.
No, there is. Listen, it's prominent. Nigeria has kind of accelerated that a little bit, right? I know some things about the Nigeria situation that I can't divulge to anybody, like I know in confidence that I can't really talk about. But I think that there is a growing sentiment right now, a substantial sentiment, where there is this idea that we have an obligation to protect Christians around the world. Now, I'm not so disappointed in that sentiment. I think that that's fine, so long as it's not used as a launching point to actually create a coalition against God's people.
There you go.
I don't want another Crusades to show up, which I see the potential for that to happen.
Exactly. And here's what I say. Okay, Christians need to be protected. Okay, but I'm a Christian in Israel. I don't need any protection from the United States. But it could be painted like that. And what they're doing is creating a moral equivalency in the name of Christianity between Islam and Judaism. We need to protect Christian sites from Muslims and Christian people from Muslims. And then you have this Tucker Carlson kind of talked to that Christian nun with the nun with the mustache.
Yeah,
what was her name?
Yeah.
Okay,
I forgot. The Stephanopoulos' sister.
Yeah, and she pressed that button. We need protection. We, the Christians in the Holy Land, need protection from the Jews. That's what she did, which is a complete and total lie. But
that's libelous, of course.
Yeah, but that can be used to galvanate. And here's the thing, James, literally, seriously, I've been talking to young people here, and you see how different they are from young people over there. The young people over there are being pulled by the nose of terrible, terrible things. And I don't know. I mean, people, James, people that you know, people that I know are starting to ask themselves, wait a minute, how can it be that this is happening in Israel, and how can Israel do things like that? Then even Christians are saying, wait a minute, if Israel is doing stuff like that, they can't be God's chosen people, because God's chosen people would not be doing this. And wait a minute, maybe they aren't God's chosen people. And then they hear Tucker Carlson say, oh, it is blasphemy to think that they're God chosen people. And lo and behold, we see Christians who grew up in the church, who studied the Bible, are starting for political reasons to go down the road of replacement theology. And you heard somebody talking about that just now.
Oh, yeah. Listen, this is something that's going on more and more and more and more. I want everybody to pray that somehow, miraculously, some way, God might open up the door for me to have a face-to-face with Tucker, a private face-to-face. I don't want to go online. I don't want to be, I just want to be able to say, hey, this is the theology. This is what's going on. You can make a decision after seeing this. Because I think that more than ever, and I'm serious about this, like we have to be, like we are in a very dangerous place right now, David. Like, listen to me and listen to me closely. And I'm very worried about this place, okay? Things are becoming more polarized than they ever have. And it's making me nervous. It's getting to the point now where we are no longer debating the issues. We are ripping the people. I'm watching it. Like it's happening. It's happening before our face. It's getting ugly. It's one of those situations. It's getting darker. And yes, we have to call people out for their stupidity. 100%. We got to call them out for their foolishness. Absolutely. But like, we need to start arming people and arming ourselves with the real arguments. Like, these are the things we're dealing with, folks. Like, we've got to wake up. It's super critical.
So here's the dynamic that I'm seeing happening. I think something like 65% of the people under the age of 30 in the United States believe that what Hamas did on the 7th of October was a positive and a justified resistance to occupation. 65% of Americans. By the way, that's why Charlie was worried, because he realized that we're losing the battle. That's why Megyn, what's her name? Megyn Kelly is worried. Worried. Same thing. And I think, though, that Tucker is in a different place. Megyn Kelly actually says, I'm worried for Israel. Charlie said, I'm worried for Israel. Tucker says, I'm worried about Israel. And there's a little bit of a difference in that one. But I'm going to say this. I believe that the next election, and I might be wrong. Glad to be wrong. But I'm going to say the next election is going to be about support of Israel.
Yep.
the next election, and I believe that even the Republican side, the conservative Republican Christian side, is going to have to turn its back on Israel because there's going to be electorate price to pay if they support Israel too publicly. And I think we're seeing the beginning of that happening right now.
Yeah, but the only way to defeat that, David, is to educate people as into what the issues are. Can I give you one example?
Please.
The number one argument I'm hearing right now amongst the hardcore MAGA, okay, that do not support Israel. The number one argument that I'm hearing right now is we're spending too much money. Like, why is America dumping so much money into Israel? Okay, so let's do the mechanics of this. Let's. I want everybody to do the math.
No, I want everybody. First of all, I want everybody to listen. I want everybody to listen, and I want everybody to tell their kids this, because I know where you're going with this. I understand this, and this has to be clear because America is putting billions of dollars in Israel, but it's not being done the way most people think. But you hit it.
Yeah, well, there's several issues to talk about, okay? So first and foremost, let's just do real numbers, okay? When we talk about the overall debt that is incurred in the United States of America, especially as it relates to foreign exchanges, let's just talk about money being given out to other countries, okay? If you were to calculate it per person, per citizen, men, women, children, it's roughly $134,000 per American. $134,000 per American. Now, let's talk about the billions and billions and millions of dollars we're giving to Israel that is costing us so much money, and why are we paying for this and why are we paying for that? Of the $134,000 that is tied to each man, woman, and child that is incurred from the debt, $11 is Israel. $11. And by the way, let's take it a step further. Of the $11 that comes out of the $134,000 pot for each American, of the $11, we get, in some cases, in the case of 2 years ago, we get $14 back. 14 back.
That's something that most people don't understand.
So why don't we start arguing in terms of data so that we can take the wind out of everybody who continues to say, oh, look, we're spending all this money, we're neocons, we're this, we're that. Okay, fair enough. I hate the death of innocent people. God hates the death of innocent people. Okay? But don't we get rid of those who put into play those things?
There's two
Whose
things.
fault is it? It's Hamas.
Yeah. Before I want to go back to the debt a minute, and let's see if I want to tie something. What a lot of people don't understand, and I know this carefully. I was in a tank battalion 2 days ago in Israel, and we use Merkava Mark. I saw Merkava Mark 4s, Mark 3s. We use Merkava Mark 4s. The tank is the only piece of military equipment that is not manufactured in the United States. The bullets, the rounds. He showed me some of the new tank rounds. By the way, some amazing stuff. I'm dying to tell you about it. I can't. But, some of the things I saw yesterday, day before yesterday, I'm dying. This goes like this and it goes like that. And AI kind of tank rounds. And it's cool. But what I'm trying to say is this. When America gives $3 to Israel, okay, the stipulation is that those $3 have to be spent in America. And that's, people tell me, oh, Israel's got free health care and America's funding Israel. No. Okay. America is giving money to Israel. Basically, we don't get money. We get credit. And we buy F-35s. We get credit, and we buy tank rounds. We get credit, and we buy M14s. And what that does is that gives jobs to American manufacturing companies. That gives jobs to Americans that make F-35s and I think it's General Dynamics. That gives jobs to Americans that put together the technology. Now, on the other hand, what do you get back also? Though I don't know if you know, but the F-35I, the F-35 that was used to attack Iran, the I is for Israel. We have
Yep.
our own version. The Americans receive all the tactical combat experience that makes the F-35 now much, much better because we are using it in battle. So there's a return loop on everything that the United States of America actually invests in Israel. By the way, you know where you don't get that return loop? You don't get it
You're
from
not going to get
Egypt.
it in you're not going to
You're
get
not
it
gonna
from
get it from
Ukraine.
Egypt.
You're not going to get it from Egypt. You're not going to get it from Ukraine. You're not going to get it from Russia.
You're not going to get it from Qatar.
You're not going to get it from Turkey.
Nope.
Should we go on and on about the names that we do arms deals with where we can actually make those assertions?
Okay, and we actually sell the Americans back some of this technology. So, again, it's a win-win situation that America has been doing for years. America has been funding countries. By the way, it funds Egypt. I don't know if you know that I talked to the colonel yesterday, and I said, okay, from a tank point of view, I mean, what are your main threats? And he said, urban warfare, the whole Gaza incursion. Yeah. Lebanon is not a threat anymore. And I said, really? So why do you need a tank? He says, don't forget, there's Egypt down there.
The Sinai.
Are
you kidding me?
And you know what the Egypts have fight with? M1 Abrams.
We know
we need to know how to deal with A1 Abrams because they are in the Sinai. I said, well, really? You really think that's a threat? He said, I don't think we're going to go to war tomorrow with Egypt, but I need to know I need to know where the sensitive parts of the M1 Abrams are because the United States of America is selling American equipment to Israel's, I'm going to say, not so friendlies.
And at the same time, while allowing China to sell their J-1 fighters to Egypt. So think about that for a second. Think about how consequential that can be.
So what I want to say to everybody who says that Israel's getting all of the money comes back to America and creates jobs in the United States of America. Let's make this clear. Let's put this in some kind of context.
Well, I mean, I think that's my point is if we start dealing with the data, okay, if we start arguing the merits of the stipulations being yielded to, it's going to change something substantially. It's going to get people to understand a little clearly what is really going on. Because look, let's just talk about this. Let's just be real. Do you know that at least half of the social media influencers that are out there that are prominent all admit to not checking the data before they put it out? Do you know how serious Charlie Kirk was about making sure his data was good before he said anything about it?
Well, remember the meeting that Candace Owen accused him of having with what's his name, and she called it. They pulled him in to give him this. It was him sitting with people to check the data to know how to represent Israel the right way. That's what he was doing.
Not only was that the case, bro, but he was running control groups. We talked about this. Like, he was running these student panels where he was sitting down with these control groups and he was really trying to understand what their thought process was about Israel. And he was shocked to find out that it's getting way worse, not better. Way worse. That the kids are changing their attitude towards Israel in some substantial ways.
James.
And in many ways without factual basis for the conclusions that they come to.
Again, I'm less worried about the woke left. I'm less worried about the Democrats. You know what I'm really worried about? It's seeping into the church. It's seeping into people in the church who are actually turning their backs on Israel. And the only way you can turn your back on Israel is to go down the replacement theology rabbit hole. That's the only way you can turn your back on Israel. So what's happening is we're seeing a resurgence in replacement theology inside some of the churches that even me and you know. And they're saying the politics. And here's the thing. I mean, I remember sitting with Char, and at some point I realized that his woke mentality is what pushed him into
Yeah, no.
anti-biblical replacement
But he doesn't
theology.
know. But he doesn't know the Bible. You know what I mean? I mean, let's just face it. Like, he doesn't understand, and that's a terrible tragedy considering the pedigree that he came from, right? But he just doesn't. I mean, look, he's a lightweight, and I'm not even going to get into who we're talking about here because, quite frankly, I'm not going to give him an audience. But the reality of it is, he's a lightweight. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know his head from his rear, and that's my point. You have to argue the data.
Have you
You
been
have to
following
show
some of the
people where
things
he's
that
dead wrong.
Have you been following some of the things that Nick Fuentes has been saying?
We have the same problem with Nick Fuentes. It's the same exact issue.
But he has a platform.
No, but let me
platform.
Let me peg Nick Fuentes for you. Okay? This is an easy one. Nick Fuentes is super easy to peg. And I'm telling you right now, I can't stand what he stands for. I can't stand the things that he says. But let me just simply peg it for you. Nick Fuentes was a guy who early on as a kid fell in love with the idea of America becoming a country that he had not yet seen. He was thrilled about the idea of America becoming a conglomerate of people that cared about its interests first. He gets together with a bunch of political pundits that are absolutely pro-Trump. Lots of really promising things show up on his radar. And because he started asking questions about Israel, by the way, somewhat legitimate questions about Israel that could have been very easily answered by smart people, very easily could have been answered, he got canceled. And because he got canceled, he got angry and he got bitter. And in his anger and in his bitterness, he started going down the Jew route, the this route, the that route. The problem is very simple. The same questions that he asked initially are super easy to answer. It doesn't take a super brain to answer it correctly so that people will understand it. The problem is there's very few people right now that are willing to say, let's sit down and let's argue it. Let's go down the intellectual ascent path and let's deal with the facts so that the whole world can see how incredibly stupid your analysis is. Instead, they're saying, well, he's an anti-Semite.
Okay, so
and he is. But why don't we actually...
He's anti-Semitic.
He's evil. No, listen. The things he says are dark, they're demonic, they're evil.
By the way, did you hear some of the things that he said about Charlie?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's evil.
I
despise what he has said about
one
Charlie.
of the things that really whacked me out. He says, "I've invested or impregnated." He actually used the word impregnated.
Yes,
Turning Point USA with my ideas, and that really creeped me out. I mean, okay,
and he said it in a very vulgar way. And you know what? Dave Smith can say whatever he wants about this person rising up or that person rising up, and Nick Fuentes is the smartest guy or whatever. Look, my thing about this is there are very few people that are willing to just simply say, okay, this is where you're at. Let's sit down and let's have a real debate. Let's sit down and let's have a discussion about the assertions that you're making, so that we can develop a deeper understanding. Look, he does the same thing with women. He believes that women should be in a specific spot because he himself is not in a relationship with one where he has experienced anything that's even remotely meaningful. If he was married and if he had children, he would have a deeper understanding of how precious these relationships are. He would literally put women in a spot that they deserve to be put in, which is highly regarded. The Bible calls women the weaker vessel, not because they're physically weaker, but because they're to be cherished like something that is fragile. And when I say fragile, I mean like a diamond, like a ruby. You take them, you protect them, you care for them. Doesn't matter how tough they are. We got women cops right now, and there's a few of them. We got women cops that are like stronger, tougher than anybody out there in the streets. But that does not negate the fact that we are called to treat them as what the Bible would refer to as the weaker vessel. In other words, you cherish them, you love them, you value them, you respect them, you put them in the place that they deserve to be in, because That's what they need. That's how God made them. The problem is Nick Fuentes doesn't understand that because he's never experienced it. Nick Fuentes has never experienced what it's like to be a man who a woman depends upon to be able to bring something of value home, and doesn't understand what it means to have a beautiful woman by his side who teaches him and adds to him value. Okay? Look, Nick Fuentes would never be able to understand how valuable Erica was to Charlie. Nick Fuentes would never be able to recognize the fact that the reason why Turning Point became the way it was because of the brilliance of his wife. Yes, was Charlie brilliant? Absolutely. But that's the thing that people don't understand. So because he doesn't have it, because he's never experienced it, because he doesn't know it, he's a little bitter. He's bitter about all of these things, and so that bitterness is moving in a direction that's, quite frankly, destructive.
Can I throw you a curveball?
It's ugly. It's ugly.
Can I throw you a curveball that just now came up?
Yeah, please.
One of the theories that I'm hearing about Candace is one of the problems. Why Candace went off the rails? She was in love with Charlie.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, look, this is my thing. I would never say that because I think that she's married. She says she's happily married. She has children. I'm not going to make that assertion. I'm just not. I think.
Okay, so I'm thinking. Okay,
for the record, I think that's crazy. But that's just my opinion. I think that's kind of a crazy idea.
Okay, but I want to touch something that, again, that goes back to what we're talking about. And maybe the fact that me and my background and you and your background is very interesting, because one of the things that's been coming up, and I kind of, it rubs me very wrong, is the whole idea of America first or Israel first. Meaning if you put Israel first, you can't put America first. And if you put America first, you can't put Israel. And the whole concept of loyalty to Israel before America. I mean, how do we kind of reply to those who say, wait a minute, by the way, Tucker said it. If you were an officer in the Israeli army, you shouldn't have American citizenship. If you were a soldier, there was Israeli. No, wait a minute. I want to touch this because this is something a lot of people are talking about. You come from an immigrant background, okay, from an Arab nation. I come from dual nationality and Israel. And how do you assert that I can be both an Israeli patriot and an American patriot at the same time? Why is there a problem with that?
Because what needs to happen when those arguments are made is that there needs to be an active presentation that the interests align. And I'm going to make myself very, very clear. I am proud to be an American. And if anything goes against that of the welfare of my country, I will stand against it with the most fierce position that I possibly can. What people don't understand when this argument is being voiced is that if you do care about America first, then you will understand that the modus operandi of how you approach geopolitics is to understand that there are alliances that are created that bring direct benefit to the well-being of the country that's being put in question. So if you say America first instead of America only, then you will recognize that an alliance with Israel will actually bring great benefit to the United States of America. Now, I'm going to make myself clear. You don't have to be a neocon for that. You don't have to get involved in every war in the Middle East for that. You don't have to bomb anybody. You don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is let Israel do what Israel needs to do, and all you have to do is recognize where your obligations lie. Do I want to put boots on the ground in the Middle East? Heck no. Do I want to create more of a war footing than already exists? Absolutely not. I don't want to do it as much as you don't want to do it with young IDF kids. That you don't want to do it with your son, you don't want to do it with your nephews, you don't want to do it with anybody. So my point is this. My point is, if you will understand the functional aspect of what that actually means, not just the simple relational aspect, then you will recognize that there are things that must be done for the benefit of our country. We absolutely cannot experience the greatest opportunity that America has if those partnerships are not made. Because let's be consistent. If you're an America-only person and you say that any other relationship doesn't benefit us, then you have to forfeit $14 trillion. You have to just say, let's go away because we just took in $14 million from all of the states represented in the Gulf Coalition Council, in the GCC. So what are we going to do? Are we going to throw away Mohammed bin Salman? Are we going to throw away Qatar? Are we going to throw away all of these other countries? You have to do it. Let's be consistent. And for everybody who continues to say that Bibi Netanyahu is bad for Israel, you know what? Shut your mouths for a minute, okay? And just take some time to research what Bibi has done and why it's become valuable. Like,
I want to go even further. I want to say, does anybody, okay, why doesn't the rest of the world, and again, this is us, we're fighting the battle of the Western world. When the Houthis put a flag up in the middle of their exercise, it says death to America and then death to Israel. I mean, why isn't that seen, excuse me, seen and accepted? Why do we only see this and people in America don't see this? And not only do they not see that we are an asset for American security, because you don't need boots on the ground here. You don't need boots on the ground.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that Bibi is to Israel oftentimes what Trump has been to the United States of America. Don't get me wrong. There is no comparing Trump to anybody else, because Trump brings a lot of variables that are unique that Bibi is not going to be able to parallel, or nobody's going to be able to parallel. Fine. I think that President Trump is going to go down as one of the best presidents that we've ever had in American history. And I think that that's going to be the case for a lot of reasons, not just one, but a lot. Okay? You could be somebody who comes from the perspective of one uniquely poised place, and you could still probably believe that. Let's just pretend you were somebody that was in the midst of the bond market, okay? Or just managing, watching the treasury notes as they existed during the time of Obama, and then into the time of Biden. You would clearly be able to see this president has done wonders. He's done wonders, okay? So I'm not gonna draw the complete parallel, and I'm not gonna go so far as to say, that he's God and all that kind of stuff. That's just ridiculous. But here's the thing: do you know where Israel would have been if Bibi Netanyahu was not the prime minister? Israel would have been in the river, and they would have been in the sea. And I'm sorry to say that.
That's a good one.
But it's true. They would have been min Mahr Bahr. Same thing.
So I was in Jerusalem. There was a huge sign that says President Trump is the new Cyrus the Great.
Oh yeah. You know who's putting on those signs, by the way, just to know. There are lots of well-meaning people in Israel right now who are who would agree with that sentiment. But you know who's putting up those signs? The guy who actually designed the Bring Them Now movement, which is an anti-Bibi movement. And that's what they're doing right now. They're making a campaign of saying Trump is the greatest and Trump is the best. And don't get me wrong, I'm very proud of our president. I'm very proud of President Trump. If it wasn't for President Trump, we would not see lots of these things happening. I guarantee you, if Trump did not bomb those nuclear sites in Iran, you would have never seen the cooperation from the GCC. You would have never, ever seen Saudi Arabia do what they did. You wouldn't have seen the changes in Oman, in Yemen.
You would have not seen the release of the hostages by the Hamas.
No way. No way. You wouldn't have seen it. So thank God, honestly, thank God for President Trump. I'm grateful. I'm super grateful. If all I talked about was the geopolitical analysis side of it, I am grateful for President Trump, and I'm grateful for what President Trump has done. But I'm not dealing with that side right now. I'm dealing with the side of Bibi. And let's get real. Let's just face it for just 1 second. These people who are putting up all these signs, who are saying Trump, 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 all these people who are throwing that stuff up, they are trying to take away from the credit that Bibi deserves. They're trying to take away from the brilliant posturing that Bibi has put in himself. Think about that for a second.
And here's the thing. One of the things that we don't. These were people that were anti-Trump before.
That's the point. They don't like Trump. Some of these people still can't stand Trump, but they're going to make him the god right now. They're going to make him the hero because it's their way of pretty much extenuating the principle in their mind that Bibi had nothing to do with this, when in reality, Bibi had everything to do with this. When they said all eyes on Rafah, Bibi said, "Good. I hope you're watching, and I hope you're recording. We're still going into Rafah."
Oh, we want to talk about that? By the way,
that's a whole other. Oh my goodness, that's a whole other mess. Don't get me started on what's happening now in the Philadelphia corridor, and now, because of what's happening, listen, I just want to say this when it comes to the Philly corridor, when it comes to this area, if it wasn't for Bibi Netanyahu, you would not have a position there. Rafah would still be a stronghold in Gaza.
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm mad about this. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it might be, but it's nothing like it was.
By the way, did you hear about the 200 that are stuck in there?
Oh, it's crazy.
Do you want to go into this, or should I?
No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. But before we do, let me just simply say this. You would have to be crazy. You'd have to be nuts to think that Bibi Netanyahu should not get credit for any of this. You'd have to be crazy. Like, think about this for just 1 second. Think about the kind of opposition. Think about the opposition that the Advocate General of the IDF has created in an attempt to destroy the credibility of Bibi. Think about what this corrupt piece of work Attorney General has done. Think about what he went through with the Shin Bet, with Israel's deep state. Think about all that stuff. Ronan Bar, I'm sorry, you're a traitor. You're a traitor. Forgive me for saying it.
What about Eyal Golan? I mean,
come on, Golan. Give me a break. You're going to make my blood pressure blow my head off by talking about Golan. Because most people don't understand the depth of those types of politics. And then, the funny thing is, all the ignorant Americans that they don't know a single name of a single party other than Likud are running around going, Netanyahu, Likud, Netanyahu, Netanyahu. You wouldn't know a single party name if it slapped you in the face. If it was a snake that bit you in the rear, you wouldn't know it.
What's the difference between them? What's the difference between them and the Bernie Sanders kind of dynamic?
At least the Bernie Sanders dynamic is consistent. Bernie Sanders, by principle, wasn't willing to flip on somebody in order to just create this perception of evil. At least Bernie Sanders was principled, even if his principled behavior related directly to the communist world. Okay, fine, you're a communist. Great. At least you're principled and you're consistent with it. But these people that continue to take a run at Bibi, like, give me a break. You don't know what you're talking about. You probably don't even understand how a coalition works. And don't get me wrong, we have problems.
Nobody in America understands what a coalition is.
No, they don't understand how it works at all. They also don't understand that you would have to be out of your flipping mind to think that Bibi would not be able to get elected in the next election. You'd have to be crazy to think he would not be able to form a stronger coalition.
No. I think they're talking about 66 now.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? Like, there's no way. Why? Because the people that matter recognize the fact that Israel would not be in the place it was had it not been for the brilliant maneuvering of Bibi Netanyahu. I'm sorry. At least educate yourself a little bit on the matter, and then you can talk. Do I hate innocent life dying? Yes, I do. You know what? Let me just make a comment on this, okay? If I suffer the loss of somebody very dear to me, which I have, we've experienced that as of late. But let's just say, God forbid, that something terrible happened to my spouse, and it was because of the nefarious and evil action of another human being. I don't care what anybody says. The last thing that I would want to do is accuse the wrong person of committing the act that was committed because it feels better. It never feels better when you know the person who committed the nefarious act is still out and about. And right now, what we're doing is we're blaming Israel, we're blaming the IDF, and we're not blaming the Arabs. We're not blaming Gaza. We're not blaming Hamas.
We're not
This
blaming
is what it says.
the lie of Palestinianism.
David, This is what it says in the Quran. It says, وَمَكْرُ مَكْرَ Allahu khayra al-makirina, meaning Allah is the chief of deceivers.
No, it's a deception, but I think most people already understand. At least most of the people who are listening to us.
No, but that's my point. I'm going in circles right now, and I'm talking about all of this because the biggest problem that we have is we're not dealing with the facts. That's the problem.
Okay, so if we're going to go down this road, what do you want to talk about? Gaza or New York? They're both a balagan.
Well, Mamdani is a huge problem. We should probably talk about New York. We can talk about Gaza too. Don't get me wrong. I think Gaza is also a problem, right? I mean, it's the big problem.
Well, I talked to a couple of guys a little while ago, and I think Israel's in a pretty good situation in Gaza right now. I don't know if you understand what more or less where we are and how it's kind of settled in, and it looked like it might be settled in for a long time. I don't know if you can get your hands on a map of what we call the yellow line.
Oh, I could try to find it. Yep.
No. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I'm just telling people get your hands on the map of the yellow line, and basically what Israel has done is created a massive buffer between our border and the bad elements in Gaza. And here's the thing: we're in control of Rafiah, we're in control of Philadelphia corridor, we're in control of a buffer between our border. And then there's the whole story of the 200 that I find is ludicrous. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I'm sure that if I explain it here to people what's going on, they're also going to say it's crazy.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, it continues to become one of the most consequential issues of our day. And again, if you sit down and you educate people as into what's actually happening and they become a little more aware, then the assertions that you make regarding what you consider to be the injustices or the actions of the leaders making the smartest decisions is going to be reconsidered.
So what do you think about
the United States?
What do you think about the United States pressuring us to give those 200 people back to let them leave the yellow line, let them leave the Israeli areas and go back to the Gaza?
I am completely opposed to any mindset of appeasement that would say release more terrorists who took the life of innocent children back into the population.
Okay, so here's just so the people understand what the situation is. Okay, we've drawn a ceasefire line inside Gaza. Israel is on this side, and the Hamas is still in control of the other side. And there's this, we're in between the first phase and the second phase. And the idea is that the minute the first phase is over, the second phase means disarming Hamas inside. But it turns out that there's at least 200, according to Hamas sources, Hamas fighters underground in the tunnels underneath the areas that are in Israeli control. And their families are asking Hamas to find a way for them to return back to the areas that will be under Palestinian or under Gaza control. Israel is saying, no, these are fighters. They're underneath. If they surrender, we'll take them prisoners of war. I mean, that's fine. And we'll deal with them like we deal with prisoners of war. But the United States is putting pressure on Israel to let them out. And that kind of drives me crazy.
It is hugely erroneous. But once again, when you look at people like Kushner or you look at people like Witkoff, you are dealing with individuals that do not understand the Arab mind. They don't understand the Muslim problem. They don't understand what Islam is.
And what's happening right now is I guess America is going to push Israel into making some kind of concession on that one. I'm going to watch those people walk out from their tunnels underneath Rafah, and it's going to drive me crazy.
And you know what's going to end up happening? You're going to release them into the general population in Gaza, and they're going to go back to waking up in the morning saying they're, Salatu khayran min an-nawm, Allahu Akbar, Muhammad Rasulullah. They're going to go on with their nonsense, with their lies. again and again and again with their fake prayers to a fake God, and they're going to be inspired to kill innocent people, and more Jewish lives will be lost. And not just Jewish lives, but any life that is a sympathizer with the cause against that which is evil. Look at what's happening in Nigeria. Who do you think are killing all those Christians?
What do you think happened in Sudan? By the way, what do you think happened in Sudan?
We've lost 11 million people in Sudan over the last probably 20 years. 11 million, David. 11 million at the hands of Islam.
Where are the demonstrations?
You're never going to see it. You're never going to see it. Instead, but listen. Instead, you have these stupid college kids, forgive me for saying it, because they choose to be that way. They're being brainwashed by their professors. They have the ability to be brilliant. I mean, some of these kids can be so brilliant. Like, there's so much hope for these kids. But they're being lied to, and they're literally, guys, look, David, they are praying to Allah, and they don't even know who Allah is. They don't know about Muhammad. They don't know about the Quran. They don't know anything. They're running around saying, they don't even know that they are calling for the genocide of innocent Jews.
But here's the thing. They don't really want to know. All they want is to feel good because save the whales and save the Palestinians. I mean, it's like the same thing. They have no idea what they're saying. How do we educate them?
Why are you getting me so fired up right now? You got my blood pressure completely. You're just doing what Tom does to me all the time. I'm sorry. I got to say it. But it is a big problem. Okay. How about New York? Should we talk about New York for just a second? Because Mamdani is a huge problem.
How much impact will he have on New York?
Substantial.
You know that 26% or maybe even 30% of the Jews in New York voted for him.
Yeah, I heard the number was 16%, but either way, that's a big number. That's a big number. Like, how can you be Jewish and vote for somebody that believes in your elimination? Doesn't make sense.
Well, I can try to explain, if that really matters. The Jews that live in New York are the Jews who do not want to live in Israel. And they want to live in peace and quality in New York, and they try to do that again, like Jews have done in the past. And again, go back to the 1930s in Europe. Go back to the 500 AD and the 1500 AD in Spain. We try to appease. We try to live under the radar. We try to not make noise. We try to say hello and thank you and this. And that's what the Jews are doing there right now.
I mean, the mentality that the Jews have right now in New York is the same mentality that the Jews had in Egypt.
Yep.
It's hey, Massa, I'll be a good slave. I'll obey you. That's exactly the mindset that's going on. It's exactly. And I'm not trying to be derogatory. I'm not trying to sound harsh. I'm just saying they have the slavery and poverty mindset. The mindset that God never intended for them to have.
Well, I'm going to say this. I mean, if you know anything about our history, go back to Exodus. We went around in circles for 40 years because we couldn't believe in ourselves.
Yeah. There was no belief in the God of heaven. And I mean, obviously, that's going to be one of the biggest problems here.
And I think we're back to that. Mamdani, has he won, by the way? What time is it over there?
I don't know what the results are going to be. I'm so fearful of the fact that he is going to win.
No, I mean, he's won. I think everything that I heard, he is going to win. But what will that mean? Like. Huh? James, what will that mean if he wins? I mean, what does that do?
This. He just basically said that if he becomes the mayor of New York, if Netanyahu comes to New York to go speak at the UN or any other place, he's going to arrest Netanyahu. Now, we'll see how well that works. That's not going to happen. That's when you'll see the military in New York, right? That's when you'll see the Insurrection Act come up by President Trump. But, it's going to be an Islamic state. If he, really more an Islamic city, if he becomes a mayor of New York, you're going to see the influence of Islam everywhere. He's a communist and a Muslim.
I heard
and a Jew hater.
Yeah, definitely. And it's surprising that it all comes together.
Oh, yeah. But this has been the process, by the way. This is Islam has latched on to Marxism. And cultural Marxism has latched on to Islam.
Well, it's also latched onto queerness, which is weird which is really, really queer.
I mean, that in and of itself, David, like that in and of itself is just a function of just some pretty radical ignorance. Meaning the people that have latched themselves on to this world, this crazy, insane, chickens for KFC world, right? It's like, you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And they put on their kafiyah, and they think that the kafiyah is some kind of a sign of resolve. By the way, you want to hear something really interesting? Do you know that the kafiyah itself was originally worn by Jews in some context? It's a very interesting story, by the way. You know that, of course.
What I always find fascinating is kafiyah and pink hair. I mean,
it's hilarious. It's hilarious. I'm so confused that I'm a man who thinks I'm a woman, yet I have enough clarity to say that the Jewish state is committing genocide.
Oh.
Tell me how backwards that is. If you can't tell the difference between XX and XY, you mean to tell me you're going to know the difference between right and wrong? You're going to be able to tell me what's right on the worst day of Israel's life? You know the worst part about that, David, when me and you were there watching those confidential videos, those classified videos?
Ugh.
The worst part about that was I understood Arabic. That's the worst part about all that. And to hear what they were doing, the one that just made me turn off, like the one that just got me to where I just lost it and could never recover, was at the very beginning where they were showing the boys.
Yeah.
That to me, how these guys could just walk in the refrigerator like no big deal while these guys are completely in fear of these boys and just drink water and talk about how excited they are about what they're doing. It's disgusting.
Nobody understands this. So, James.
That's why I say the education is critical, bro. This is why I say we have to argue from a deeper intellectual assent. We have to.
I'm going to start making the request here that I've been making. If the people who are listening to us and watching us want to hear if you want us to help with explaining things, giving you ammunition to explain things to, we've got you. We think you understand, but how do you explain to your grandchildren? How do you explain to the people at work? How do you explain this? I mean, let us know. We would love to be a part of. I would love to be a part of that. I mean, how do we help people, arm them, prepare them, educate them to be a part of this terrible, terrible war?
Yeah, amen to that. Amen to that. And I think we have to really start thinking at that level. We've got to start doing battle.
Yeah.
And we've got to start thinking at that level. I mean, there's nothing else to say about it, brother.
James, you're going to have to send me to bed soon. It's midnight.
Yeah. Okay. Any final words?
We're on the cusp of going from stage 1 to stage 2. And the thing is this is the how do you say, the money time. Because stage 2 says Hamas has to disarm. By the way, same thing is happening in Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah has to disarm. Neither one of them can disarm because they cannot allow themselves to disarm, because that will mean the end of all the resistance. Not only theirs, but they are the last man holding the resistance flag. I mean, think about this. ISIS is gone. Al-Qaeda is gone. The Muslim Brotherhood is kind of disappearing. And the Gaza resistance is the last one that actually holding the military flag. It's gone to a different kind of resistance, and that's what Erdogan is doing. But they're not going to be able to give up the flag. And what happens if they don't disarm? What will that mean?
Well, I think that what that's going to end up meaning is I think that the president is going to do what he faces having to do, and he's going to basically tell Israel, put in every last bit of force you possibly can and destroy them. And I think that Bibi is probably waiting for the opportunity to happen.
Yeah.
By the way, I have to read this because I think that this is like really important. Okay. My sister wrote this.
Ooh.
This text is smart. It
Tell her
just
hi.
shows it. Yeah, she probably just heard you say it. She's probably watching. This text is smart. It shows just how brilliant my sister is. And she understands geopolitics very well, especially of the region. She says this. She says, the only good news about Lemdami winning in New York is that his power is severely limited as mayor. Only the governor can actually raise taxes or implement some of the Marxist promises he's making at his level. He's literally practicing taqiyya, concealing the tenets of his faith to ensure election to protect himself from danger as Islam permits. She's right, right? The self-hating Jews and LGBT mob in New York are in for a rude awakening when he stops faking for the cameras.
And here's the thing. It's Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt all again. Remember after the Arab Spring and the Muslim
100%.
Brotherhood? And
The moment they were marching into Shawara Tahrir, I was kicking and screaming. Good job, Obama. You bozo.
Yeah,
Good
what
job.
Did they do? What
you
did they
ruined
do
Egypt.
first time? They start dismantling the democracy that brought them
That's
to
what
power.
they do. That's what they do. and then you remember they bring in Morsi and the mess that brought on and I mean, can you imagine? Listen, I'm not saying that Mubarak is the perfect guy. Okay, Hosni Mubarak was not a good guy. He was a pretty bad guy. But you know what? He was very much, in my opinion, at the same level Gaddafi was in Libya.
Yeah.
You got Gaddafi to say, I'm going to control the terrorists. I'm going to make sure we don't have a nuclear threat here. And what does the United States do? They kill him. This is the stupidity of Obama.
So what I'm trying to say is this period is going to be the money time for Hamas. Will they dismantle? And what will America do if they do not dismantle? It's going to be the money time for Hezbollah, by the way. Same thing in the north. Will
100%.
they dismantle? And what will President Trump, who's put his whole weight behind this, do when they cannot or will not dismantle? And
100%.
I think we're going to see this. We're going to see what it means for a Muslim to be a mayor in New York. They're talking about sending in this peace force. I mean, Egypt, Indonesia, Pakistan, Azerbaijan are sending in soldiers into Gaza for 2 years. That's what they're talking about. We'll see.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Especially Azerbaijan. Good luck.
Well,
let's just see how that goes.
I'm going back to the map of the Gaza Strip today where Israel is. I mean, if we finish this at that situation where what's left for the Hamas is the corner or the inside of Gaza, like we've seen, I think that'll be, and Israel will probably sit in there for many years.
Yep, 100%.
So that's 100%. What I see. James, thank you. I missed you.
I miss you too, Habibi. It's been a long time. I was so disappointed that you couldn't join us last week, but we got you this week, so that's good.
I was on tour. I mean, I did two tours back to back. Come on, let's come on. And let's bring people over here, James.
When are you coming back, by the way?
The end of the month.
Okay. Well, speaking of bringing people over here, we do have our tour in exactly a year from now. We mean you have to talk offline on that.
Yep. We'll get into that.
Okay. All right. Guys, let's close in prayer. David, you want to do it for us?
Yes, please. Avinu Shebashamayim, please hear our plea. We pray for the people of Israel. We pray for the nation of Israel. We pray for the people of America. And we pray that on both sides of this divide, that the lies will not seep into the core values of what these two great nations actually are. We pray for the people on the borders of Israel. We pray for the people on the borders of America. We pray that America will continue moving in the direction that we see right now and not be turned away on a different path. We pray that Israel will continue to feel your hand, your protection, and continue to open their hearts to your word. We pray for the people in Gaza. We pray for the Palestinians who are being used terribly. And we pray for the rest of the people in the Middle East who who the darkness is deeper for them than most of us really understand. Pray for James. Hold him up. He's having a hard time. Pray for me here in Israel and everything that's going through. And we just want to bless you and praise you in the name of your son, Yeshua, who died not far from here. Amen.
Amen. All right, guys, we love you. Thank you so much for all of the super chats and super stickers. I do want to say thank you. I am so sorry that we did not have a time to read it, but I have people waiting outside of my studio from the state of Israel that I'm doing an interview with, so I'm going to go do that right now. Anyway, I love you guys. God bless you. Keep fighting the good fight.